Hi Galen, it's Dad here, and we're going to read another chapter of Peter Pan and Wendy. So I'm hoping it's really good. I'm just trying to sort the phone so it doesn't keep sliding. Okay, looks like that's us. So, I heard you enjoyed the story yesterday about the mermaids. And you remember what happened in it? In the last chapter, Peter Pan and Wendy almost drowned on the rock. Now we know Wendy managed to get away on a kite that Peter gave her, but at the end, Peter almost died, and he said his famous saying, to die will be an awfully big adventure, which it will be. So, let's see what happens and how Peter gets out of this, because it's not the end for Peter. Not yet. So, get comfy. You comfy? You are? Good. Have you got your pyjamas on? Why, they're nice pyjamas though. But that's good that you've got them on as well. Perfect. Okay. Cuddle up. Good. Okay. So, we're on chapter 9. And this one is called The Never Bird. Now, it's not a very big chapter, so we're going to take our time when we read it, okay? The Nether Bird. The last sound Peter heard before he was quite alone were the mermaids retiring one by one to their bedchambers under the sea. He was too far away to hear their doors shut, but every door in the coral caves where they live rings a tiny bell when it opens or closes, as in all the nicest houses on the mainland. And he heard the bells ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Steadily the water rose till they were nibbling at his feet, and to pass the time until they made their final gulp, he watched the only thing on the lagoon. He thought it was a piece of floating paper. Perhaps it was part of the kite, and wondered idly how long it would take to drift ashore. Presently he noticed as an odd thing that it was undoubtedly out upon the lagoon with some definitive purpose. For it was fighting the tide, and sometimes winning, and when it won, Peter, always sympathetic to the weaker side, could not help clapping. It was such a gallant piece of paper. It was not really a piece of paper. It was a Never Bird, making desperate effort to reach Peter on the nest. By working her wings in a way she had learned since the nest fell into the water, she was able to some extent to guide her strange craft. But by the time Peter recognized her, she was very exhausted. She had come to save him, to give him her nest, though there were eggs in it. I rather wonder at the bird, for though he had been nice to her, he had also sometimes tormented her. I can suppose only that, like Mrs. Darling and the rest of them, she was melted because he had all his first teeth, his baby teeth. Do you know you still got your baby teeth, Galen? At least at the time we recorded this, you do. In years come, hopefully you've got big teeth. She called out to him when she had come for. She called out to him what she had come for, and he called out to her what she was doing there. But of course neither of them understood the other's language. In fanciful stories people can talk to the birds freely, and I wish for the moment I could pretend that this were such a story, and say that Peter replied intelligently to the Never Bird. But truth is best. I want to tell you only what really happened. Well, not only could they not understand each other, but they forgot their manners. I want you to get into the nest, the bird called, speaking as slowly and distinctively as possible for a bird. And then you can drift ashore. But I am too tired to bring it any nearer, so you must try to swim to it. "What are you quacking about?" Peter answered. "Why don't you let the nest drift as usual?" "I want you," the bird said, and repeated it all over. Then Peter tried, slow and distinct. "What are you quacking about?" And so on. The Never bird became irritated. They have very short tempers, the Never birds. "You dunderheaded little jay," she screamed. "Why don't you do as I tell you?" Silly Peter. Peter felt she was calling him names, and at a venture he retorted haughtily, "So are you!" Then, rather curiously, they both snapped out the same remark, "Shut up! Shut up!" Nevertheless, the bird was determined to save him, if she could, and by one last mighty effort she propelled the nest against the rock. Then up she flew, deserting her egg so as to make her meaning clear. Then at last he understood, and clutched the nest and waved his thanks to the bird as she fluttered overhead. It was not to receive his thanks, however, that she hung there in the sky. It was not even to watch him get into the nest. It was to see what he did with her eggs. There were 2 large white eggs, and Peter lifted them up and reflected. The bird covered her face with her wings so as not to see the last of them, but she could not help peeping between the feathers. I forgot whether I've told you that there was a stave on the rock, driving into it by some buccaneers of long ago to mark the site of buried treasure. I think you did forget to tell us that. The children had discovered the glittering hoard, and when, in a mischievous mood, used to fling showers of Mordors, diamonds, pearls, and pieces of 8 to the girls, who pounced upon them for food, and then flew away raging at the scurvy trick that had been played upon them. The stave was still there, and on it Starkey hung his hat, a deep tarpaulin, watertight and broad brim. Peter put the eggs into this hat and set it on the lagoon. It floated beautifully. The Never bird saw at once what he was up to, and screamed her admiration at him. And alas, Peter crowed his agreement with her. "Ta-ta!" Then he got into the nest, reared the stave in it as a mast, and hung up his shirt for a sail. At the same moment the bird fluttered down upon the hat and once more sat snugly on her eggs. She drifted in one direction, and he was borne off in another, both cheering. Of course, when Peter landed, he branched his bark, small ship, actually, the Never bird's nest in this particular case of point, in a place where the bird would easily find it. But the hat was such a great success that she abandoned the nest. It drifted out till it went to pieces, and often Starkey came to the shore of the lagoon, and with many bitter feelings watched the bird sitting on his hat. As we shall not see her again, it may be worth mentioning here that all Never birds now build in the shape of a nest, a broad brim on which the youngsters take on airing. Great were the rejoicing when Peter reached the home under the ground, almost as soon as Wendy, who had been carried hither and thither by the kite. Every boy had adventures to tell, but perhaps the biggest adventure of all was that they were several hours late for bed. This so inflated them that they did various dodgy things to get staying up longer, such as demanding bandages. But Wendy, though glorifying in having them all home again safe and sound, was scandalized by the lateness of the hour, and cried, to bed, in a voice that had to be obeyed. Next day, however, she was awfully tender, and gave out bandages to everyone, and they played till bedtime at limping about and carrying their arms in slings. Now that's the end of that chapter, and just like the Lost Boys, I think it's time to go to bed, to bed. Now if you're not asleep already, time to close your eyes and go to sleep. Night night. Love you.